why do you ask people, how do you know that it's wrong to fuck a corpse? Like, why is this your go-to in terms of like secularists, I guess?
Because secularists can't give you a justified answer.
Well, they are idiots.
Yeah, they can't give you a justified answer. So what's immoral if it's a harm principle? Secularists usually have a foundation for harm with everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, who are you doing harm to if you have sex with a dead body?
They didn't give consent.
Why does it? Well, so why would a dead person need to give consent? They're not alive. There's no sentience there.
Interesting. But you always get consent from somebody before you fuck them. Hopefully.
Yeah,
ideally.
but that's not somebody, right? So like, what's the difference between that and like heating up a bagel and having sex with it? Right?
One isn't harming somebody.
Well, who are you harming though? You can't harm the dead, can you?
Yeah, you can.
How?
What do you mean how?
Yeah, how do you harm a dead? They're dead.
You're
they're not going to know. They're not going to know.
Do you believe in souls?
Yeah, I do. That's my point. But that's the point of the question. The point of the question is to show.
Okay. So why can't I believe in souls, even though I'm not Christian? What makes you okay to do that? Me no.
What would a soul be from your perspective?
Well, I don't believe in good or evil, which is a hot take as well. Don't come for me.
Yeah.
It's
well, no, that's more consistent if you say that you don't believe in good or evil, because that solves the question of evil, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is what it doesn't solve is how you ground your morality, how it is that you.
I knew you were going to ask
that's
this.
Well, I mean that, but that's the hang on. That's the problem though. The problem is like, if there's no discernible harm in an action that you can point to, then saying that the action is wrong is super difficult to do. And yet I think that most secularists know that screwing a dead body is bad, right?
Yeah.
But they can't tell you why it's bad, other than they just think it's fucking bad, right? So
well, you're just not supposed to fuck the dead.
Yeah, I think
I feel like that's pretty clear.
Right.
Why do you need but why do you need a god to tell you that? I find that really hard.
Okay, dude, the chat's fucking with you now. They said, okay, ask her if PDF files are evil then. That's a fucked up question, Torshaa.
Why?
Are they evil?
I don't believe in evil. I don't think evil exists at all.
Oh, okay.
There goes my light. No, but follow up. What are you confused on? You're like this fucking insane ass bitch.
Well, I think that when people say, I don't believe that there's evil, or I'm neutral on the topic of evil, that they would react to something like a PDF file. Wow. And they would react to that as though it were evil. And so I think that they think it's evil, but they can't take the position that it is, even though I think that they do. So that's my mindset. So I think people lie a lot about what they actually believe.
I think so.
And I think that they have to. They kind of have to do that. They kind of have to.
Losers.
Yeah. Well, because being super consistent is actually really hard. Right? It's like really hard to do.
I feel like merch. I don't understand why people don't. I actually think, because traditionalists are always consistent because of the objective morality component, in my opinion.
They're more consistent.
I would say more often than not. Is there an instance when they're not?
Yeah, well, I mean,
your weaknesses.
There's a lot of bullets that you can get them to bite too that aren't fun for them, right? So like some branches of Christianity will say things like, God knows all he's omnipotent, right?
Yeah.
And you could say to him, does this mean that God knows what it's like to, engage in this horrendous sexual activity, let's say, or something like that? And it definitely is not a bullet they like to bite, right?
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of rhetorical tricks to hit Christians with too. I do think that that objective morality is a bit more consistent. It's easier to be consistent with it than subjective morality, because you're basically admitting that morality is just opinion. So
is that what you think?
Not universal. I
Do you
think,
think
yeah.
morality is
Well,
opinion?
I think subjectivists think that.
Mm.
I don't think that.
I feel like that didn't make sense.
What?
Your objective morality. Like, where do you get your morality from? You're saying you don't base it off of feelings ever?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that there's never any feelings which are involved with why
Mhm.
it is I would act or not act in a certain way. Just saying that whether or not I act a certain way based on feelings would not be my standard for why it would or wouldn't be moral.
So, what is just teachings?
Well, my standard for morality is Christian ethics.
Yeah. But,
Mhm.
like, I'm saying, how do you know if something's right or wrong?
Well, because I would defer to my epistemic foundations of Christian ethics.
Don't you find that problematic ever?
No,
Never?
no. It raises some interesting
I find that
hypotheticals.
pathetic.
Like it can raise some interesting hypotheticals, but when mapped onto reality, I've never seen a more effective system.
But to say that, like, your morality strictly comes from them, I find that
Well, where else could it
scary.
come from? You just make it up?
Yeah, fuck it.
Well, if you just make it up, why wouldn't that be more scary that people just make up whatever they think is
They
moral?
already do with a
Yeah, and
lot
I'm
of
trying to
religious
stop them because
teachings.
that's psychotic, right?
It's
That's fucking psychopath shit. I don't want Jeffrey
That's
Dahmer
why
to
I
make up
don't.
morality. I don't want
That
Jeffrey Dahmer to make up morality. Fuck no. No way.
that's strictly like I I was told I was a Christian atheist. I was like, how the fuck does
You were
that make
told you were an oxymoron.
sense? Literally. And I was like, I don't get it. But then I thought about it. I was like, actually, that makes a lot of sense because a lot of, at least the consistent atheists that I met, follow exactly Christian ethics. They just don't defer to like a god.
Yeah, exactly. That's my
Yeah,
whole point. So this is my whole point is
that's
that I
what I
think,
do.
yeah, I think that atheists and agnostics in the West basically have invented morality the same way Jefferson tried to by
Or the
taking
same way
all
God did.
they take morality from the Bible and from Christian ethics, and then they remove God from it. And the
Yeah,
problem
so
is that
there's
well,
some
it
other
doesn't
things
work.
added. No.
There's no enforcement mechanism then.
What's with you and enforcement?
Well, I think that enforcement's what makes the world work.
But don't you think, respectfully, how do you know God exists? You know, it's one of those.
I actually try to live inside the worldview of people who don't think God exists. And I say, okay, I'm just going to
Mm,
assume you're right. And he
okay.
doesn't. I still think that Christian ethics and acting as though he does makes for a better society, even if you don't actually believe in the God figure.
I agree with you, like 100%. I just,
So if that's true, well,
Mhm.
then Christians should be in charge and Christians should be running things and Christian ethics are superior because
I would hate to live under your fucking, your, I don't
is
know.
it because you couldn't coom?
No,
You
no,
must coom? Well,
no,
why?
I could listen.
Just
No,
other
I'm an
people
obedient bitch.
just like other people can't coom?
No, it's not that. It's just that uh, I've heard and not necessarily seen, but a lot of murders that come from believing that it was God that told them to do it. That's actually the main reason that I'm not religious. I used to
Well,
be religious.
that's fair, but let me give you a counterpoint to that. So I agree with you
Okay.
that there's a lot of people who use the name of God to do horrible things. You and I agree on that. But is it really that they do anything more horrible than like the secularist communists did when they, butchered most of their nations and starved their people to death in the name of science and carried out horrific
Sure.
eugenic experiments on their population because they had no morality whatsoever to hold them back? It's like,
Mhm.
if it's true that the objection is that sometimes people will do horrible things in the name of religion,
Mhm.
then I'm just going to agree with you. But you also will have to agree that secularists do equally horrible things absent it, and they make worse societies. So still Christianity, from my perspective, wins.
I would have to figure out what you mean by worse, but before that, genocides existed in the Bible throughout history.
Yeah, I'm
So
not.
right now, you guys, if you want to do like cost analysis, you guys, I don't know.
No, I feel like the 20th century was not Christians running around butchering everybody. I think it was
Mm,
communists who were doing that.
what about the mentally ill, and don't get mad at me, chat, for this, but I've worked in facilities with like severely mentally ill patients who developed religious delusions. This is very different from when you meet a Christian. I just like want to put that out there. It's obvious.
Like people who believe that they're God, people who
Yeah,
believe
that
that
they're the
they're
fucking Messiah.
angels.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that they do things because God commanded them in their head to do it. And so it'll be things like harming others. And you're like, well, how does that work? Because you're not supposed to do that according to the Bible, but because God is almighty, they do it.
Yeah, the
And so
problem
there's
with
more.
this though,
Mhm.
kind of the problem with this argument
I
is
didn't
that
finish it.
oh, go ahead.
Okay. So because of that, I would say there's more people that go under the radar that are committing acts of, you could argue, terrorism, but at a very small level on a bunch of people, homeless communities, jail, under like mental illness. A lot of times they don't make the media that they're doing that, but that's what's going on. I don't know if that makes sense. I
So
lost track of
I
that.
believe that people in a delusional state can very much so be influenced by the religion around them and do horrible things in its name. I just equally think that there's nothing stopping that from happening to secularists who also
Mhm.
will do horrible things, just then not in the name of religion. So I just think that mental illness
Mhm.
between both sides, regardless of what they're doing it in the name of, it's still just mental illness, right?
Yeah, but then wouldn't that make the case that there should be a separation
I don't see how.
of religion?
Right now, secularists are in charge. Has that stopped the religious people from being mentally ill? Why would the religious people being in charge stop secularists from being ill?
Because you're saying under your rule that you
Mhm.
would, well, you tell me, what would it look like if you were in charge?
Oh, I think if Christians were in charge, you'd see a grounded moral foundation, which was much better, including fixes to a lot of the problems that the quote red pillars are always complaining about. This would include marriage being under a much more rigorous ecclesiastical authority rather than a state authority. And I
Yeah.
think that the state would be much stronger in some respects and much less strong in others.
Mhm.
So generally speaking, I think that the kind of positive influences that you'd want to see from a moral government would require a Christian government.
What?
Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to implement those types of moral features. So, for instance, it wouldn't surprise me for a second if Christians got in charge. If, let's say Christians were in power, and let's say they came to power in San Francisco. Do you think that there's going to be heroin users who are allowed to take a shit in the middle of a street in San Francisco if Christians are running the city? Honestly,
Yes.
you think that they would let them do that?
Yeah. You
Why?
don't think so?
No.
Why?
Well, because it's a secularist policy of not being able to explain why it is that these people aren't allowed to do X activity if they're not hurting anybody, including shooting up heroin in
Mm,
the middle of the street. Because
okay.
Christians say, well, we demand decency laws. And so just like you have to wear clothes when you're outside, you also can't shit in the street and shoot up heroin and do all of these different horrible things. And if you do, we're going to run you the fuck out of the town. And
Is
I
that
think
what
that
you
that's
guys are?
fine.
That's what I wanted to ask you. What would you do if they didn't listen?
I would jail them, just like I
You
would
put them in jail?
if somebody walked around your kids naked in public. I'd put them in jail. Yeah.
I'd kill them, but like,
Well, right. So it seems like I have a more merciful solution than you do.
I never
I
claimed
would
to be.
just
I
I
never
would just put him
claimed.
in jail and get him treatment, right?
I never claimed to be
Right.
nice.
So dictator Torshaa is just like off with his head, huh?
Well, it's a nice idea the way you put your worldview, and if you guys were in charge, the issue is that I don't think it would be applicable. I don't know how
Well,
you
this
would
was
house all.
applicable for most of our history. It was
No, it,
applicable
it
under a Christian
wasn't though.
worldview.
A lot you guys pushed a lot of people with mental illness into one area of town and thought it was contagious at some point. But
Yeah, we had public asylums for them, and look what happened when we got rid of those.
you're right. You're right. That was one of the biggest issues,
That was
I think.
us. That was us. We put in the public asylums to get lunatics off the
Mhm.
streets, and it worked. It
Yeah.
was super helpful. And when the secularists went in and were like, "Yeah, that's not very nice," and let all the fucking
Yeah, they're
lunatics,
fucking idiots.
yeah, they're
They've
fucking idiots.
ruined it. They
Yeah,
ruined it because now they're going in jails and shit. No, I
they're
agree.
not only in jails, but I mean, now they all gravitate. Somehow they find each other. They're mostly drug addicts. A total plague
They're
on
not
society.
mostly drug addicts, they just look like it.
Okay, well, okay, I'll just concede the point. Maybe you're
I
right,
would.
and they just look like it, but I
Yeah.
mean, who cares? Ultimately, it's still a bad result, right?
Well, do you believe that their life matters?
Yeah, I think that the mentally ill should definitely ban Frankie Tio from chat, by the way.
You know what fucks me up? Why? What do you do? Who?
He was just in here trying to fucking derail to talk about Thorpes.
Oh, boring.
You need to have Thorpes on your channel. Get out of my fucking chat, you fucking idiot. Anyway,
How do
so
you guys
go ahead.
so this is what messes me up too is like if free will is the basis of Christianity, arguably, how do you look at the mentally ill who can't make certain decisions? How do they get a pass if it's not in the literature? Like you guys can recognize that some people don't have the capacity to make choices for themselves. You know what I mean?
Like,
But if you
you
believe in
mean
free will,
you
how does
mean
that work?
the do you mean like the severely disabled?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people who, due to their body, are unable to have the capacity to make choices for themselves. But that doesn't mean that we consider them to no longer be humans. It just
I didn't
means
say
that,
that.
yeah, it just means that we consider that their ability to make decisions on their own behalf due to their physiology, it was in some way damaged, sometimes through no fault of their own.
Yeah. That's something that always I used to think about
But
when
I
I
mean,
was a little.
I wouldn't say a baby has free will right away, right?
Really?
If you just mean that free will is choice, yeah,
Yeah.
what choice do they have?
But they have capacity of thought.
Babies don't. Not
Yeah, they
really.
do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, but what can they do? All
They're
they can
just
do is cry.
yeah, they're annoying. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, that's all they can do, right? Is just cry.
Sure, but there's a difference between oh, I see what you're saying, because making decisions for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can't make choices, they can't make decisions. So there's
Well, if
always
you
going to be this.
handed them something, blue and red, they're gonna pick whatever one they want, right? So they do have capacity, it's just limited.
Maybe, or maybe they're just grabbing one and it looks to you that way,
So
It's
that's
hard to say.
exactly what I was talking about in my video. You made fun of me
Yeah,
or
well,
made fun of
the
me
baby
about.
grabs the pink key because they were always more likely to grab the pink key.
Exactly. Fuck you. Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Come on, it's a great meme. It's a great meme,
You're
Torsha.
fine. I always say I'm the easiest person to roast. Like you're just I'm an easy target. It's fine. Is this
Yeah, but
on?
that's why it's no fun though. That's why we gotta we gotta roast Ethan Klein. Plus, you've been a friend of the Crucible. We're not at any kind of odds with you. Just
Hell yeah.
occasionally people say certain things. We'll make a meme out of it, and it's kind of funny, but